Coming up on this episode of Cade and Friends, Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. I had the best ways to kill someone. I could knock them out and I could put them in the bubble and asphyxiate them. Yeah, now that's the grossest thing I've ever seen or smelled in my life. Everything would be skinned and then they would get as much meat as they could off the bone. And he jumped back like 6 feet because I turned around with a skull in one hand and I had just like this muck all over me. You would think they were serial killers if you pulled them over because they all had like duct tape and trash bags and shovels. There's a sweetness to the stench of rotting flesh. I don't like to even remember it now. It's painful. keep me away from the painful topics, Cade.
Sorry. Hello and welcome to the Cade and Friends podcast. I am joined this week by my friends Jennifer and Diane.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. How are you guys doing?
I feel laid bare already. Mm-hmm. And other than that, I'm okay. I got the weighted blanket on.
Mm-hmm. And what you're referencing there is our Patreon, our mic check, that exclusive content that you can get on patreon.com/Cade Thomas.
You really want to pay for it, guys.
You really want to pay for it. It is
super worth it.
It's a very, well, how would you describe that thing, Diane?
I still am laughing from that, maybe, or I'm still confused.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still confused. I have lots of questions about Southern Oklahoma and pastures, and oh my God.
Yeah, maybe we'll get more stories about
more dating practices from that geographic area
from the Bigfoot country.
Yeah. Well, and then Diane's our co-host, if you will. Diane, do you think you have good experience being my co-host?
Let me think. I have learned to be Cade's co-host. Try not to talk when Cade's talking at all, and laugh when he makes a joke.
That's an important one.
That's an important one. Yeah. And try not to listen too hard.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Okay.
Got it.
No, you. So I mean, in all honesty, you have probably logged more hours as my co-host than like Alex has.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah, more hours. Yeah.
Lots more hours.
Yeah.
And in thrilling conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, given, they're very, much more clinically based of like movies and stuff, than like this sort of freeform thing. But, we also, have trivia and stuff where we have actual conversations, so.
Yes, we do. We are a third of the trivia team. We are the third trivia team. Yes.
We're the cornerstone.
We are the cornerstone. We are the 3 generations you have to have in every trivia team.
The life's blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're the life's blood.
Yeah. Life's blood. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But this isn't really about either me or Diane. This is about Jennifer here.
It is about our scientists.
Our scientists.
Thank you for bringing it back to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not a real scientist, but I do like to play one on TV.
Mm-hmm. And in our trivia games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I guess first off, let's describe yourself, Jennifer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Who are you and why are you here?
All right. I am a perimenopausal woman in my late 40s. You're welcome.
What gen is that anyway? I always get confused. What generation?
I am Gen X.
Oh, the forgotten one.
Exactly. And we very much feel forgotten.
I always forget that one.
Yeah. Gen X, grew up in southeastern Oklahoma. I'm going to be super condescending through most of this, and I just apologize now, guys, because sometimes it sounds like I hate on where I came from, and I kind of do, but I love it too. But also, growing up, I really felt like I was a smart person amongst a lot of people that didn't really care about intellectual things. I was also an introvert and loved to stay home and read, and my mom would drive me to Tulsa to see real movies because the ones we got down there at that time, they'd be like 3, 4, 5 months old and sometimes older. And thankfully, she loved movies. So we'd drive 2 hours to Tulsa just to spend a full day going to see movies. She'd take me to musicals. She saved up. She was a nurse. My mom was a nurse and my dad was a truck driver. But my mom was also a member of Mensa. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, and thanks to, I do love my father, but I will sound sometimes like I don't. Thanks to his side of things, I am not a member of Mensa. I was smart, but I couldn't quite make it into Mensa.
The gene pool, yeah.
Yeah. And I know that the edge, yeah, he kind of took off that intellectual edge for me. So I thank him for that all the time. He doesn't think that's funny, but it's the truth. So anyway, yeah. So she saved up. They had been divorced as long as I can remember. So she was a single mother. Saved for years to take me traveling, which most of the people I grew up with some of them never had been out of their county. And she still haven't. Yes. And she was taking me to Europe when I was 13 years old, and it really opened the world for me. And so after I graduated high school, I was valedictorian. I was very proud of that. It was a lot of work to be first of 36. There were 36 people in my graduating class, but I was number one. And I went to Tahlequah, to Northeastern. I loved it there. I was a history and English major, and at first I thought I wanted to be a writer, and at this point in my life, I have made peace with the fact that I'm really more of a consumer. I like to read. I like to consume media a lot more than I like to create it because that's hard. So, yeah, I'm a big reader, and I'm a watcher, and I'm a listener. And
you listen to this podcast.
I do. This is a fantastic podcast to listen to. I do listen to it double speed because I've got a lot of things to listen to. Mm-hmm. But you're definitely on my list.
Good.
Although you do sound like a chipmunk.
I'm telling you, the algorithms are great. You sound normal, just fast. Just fast. And
are you going to listen to this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will listen to it double speed.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe triple since she knows what's in it.
Sometimes things change a little bit in the editing. So I was very interested, having been here for years, and then listening to it after you put it all together.
Yeah.
So it was
a lot less Argyle stuff, right?
Yes. It was. I quite enjoyed both versions, the live and the edited. So so got my undergraduate degree, and I decided I wanted to be a librarian. Partly because I loved books and reading and talking to people about books and reading, and also partly because I wasn't ready to get out of school yet and get a real job. And I was very honest with my mother about that. So at that point, she had been supporting me through my undergraduate years, but then I had to start getting loans. And she said, fine, you can stay in school as long as you want, but you're going to have to pay for it. And the only way to do that was loans. So I got a buttload of student loans. And I went to OU. And went to their Library and Information Studies program. And that was fantastic. And I was all set to be a librarian. And then we were required to take one class outside of our field of study. And so I saw a museum studies class. And that just hadn't occurred. I love museums too, but museums hadn't really occurred to me in terms of a class. And while we did do a little bit of in-class coursework for that, the vast majority of that was field trips all over the place. And our instructor got us the best tours all over. And so that was the first time I had ever had a behind-the-scenes tour at a museum. And it never really occurred to me that there's a whole other world in the background. I had just, you go to a museum and you see the exhibits and you kind of think that's all there is. And really it's the tip of the iceberg. And so that class just fascinated me and also gave me an avenue to stay out of the real world because I needed to do a whole other program. So at that point, I would no longer wanted to be a librarian. I wanted to be something in museums, maybe a museum librarian. And so I found a really good program at Baylor, and I moved down to Waco. I had never been to Waco before. At that point, this was way, way, way before Chip and Joanna. So
where's David Koresh and all this?
yes, that's all I knew of Waco. When I found out Baylor was at Waco, I mean, in my head, I was just picturing this burning compound in a field. And I was like, what's... But I got there and there's, you know what? There's a whole town there. And there was even back then. So it was, the campus was gorgeous. The town was okay. The town is like a little slice of heaven now because of Chip and Joanna, but it was okay back then. But the campus was always gorgeous.
Dr. Pepper's from there, right?
Yes. And that's one of the many local museums that students in the Museum Studies program could work at.
It also has the Texas Ranger Museum.
Hall of Fame. That's right.
It's got its own little vibrant thing. One of our professors was a reporter out in the Waco market, and so there was a lot. So like they had enough to be a market, in Texas. So,
and I worked at the Armstrong Writing Library on campus, and I loved it. And you mentioned the Dr. Pepper Museum. Best Dr. Pepper I ever had was there. At least, I don't know if you still can. I would assume you can. But back then, they had like a old-fashioned soda bar, and they would just mix your Dr. Pepper up for you right there on the spot. And that was, so good. It was so good. And I'm not even a Dr. Pepper girl, but that was the best thing I ever.
Because it was supposed to be kind of like a tonic, right? Or it was like, it's supposed to be like a kind of, that's why it's called Dr. Pepper. It was like some sort of like pharmaceutical
Exactly.
idea. Yeah.
Cures all your ailments.
Yeah. And then I feel like I had heard that they originally served it hot, like way back in the day.
I don't know about that. The one I got that day, of course, wasn't. We're modern Americans and everything has to be on ice. So I don't know if it was hot back then.
I remember I had campaigns of serving Dr. Pepper hot over the course of my lifetime. Yeah.
Dr. Pepper's good.
It's really good if you put peanuts in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
That actually sounds good, the salty and the sweet. Yeah.
Inside of it?
Yeah. When I was a kid, there were little bottles. And then you had 16 ounce, which had little bottles, and they would come out almost ice cold, right, out of the cooler. And you would buy a bag of peanuts, and you'd pour them into the bottle, and it all fizz and all this stuff. But it was really so good.
Yeah.
That salt would mix in with the soda, and some people did it to Cokes, but no, Dr. Pepper was perfect.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper would be perfect. And, I mean, who doesn't like a little crunch?
No kidding.
In their pop.
Yeah. To me, I like, Dr. Pepper freezes. That's where I go with like that.
Those are good too. Those are good too. Well, and also, I mean, you think every museum can come up with a creative way to present their stuff, but at the time they had an award-winning entrepreneurial program for students where students would come in and they would come up with a new chemical formula for their own brand of pop. And they would actually make it and do taste tests. They would come up with their own marketing campaign and a logo and all of that stuff. So it was a really cool little business program for kids.
Oh, that is really fascinating.
You can tell we're from the South because we call it pop instead of soda.
That's right. It is pop.
Well, so we're not from other parts where they just call everything Coke, right? Isn't that
This
Texas?
is true. Yeah.
Texas, parts of Texas, they don't call it that?
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
And not
The parts that I
not the
lived in,
parts.
they all call
I
it
know
pop.
people that call it all Coke, but yeah. It was pop when we were growing up.
I went to college in Missouri, and the people from St. Louis called it soda. Yeah, they thought we were Hicks because we called it pop. Yeah.
I think I kind of alternate, whatever. But I think generally I've always called it pop because where we're from, Yeah. I think soda seems a little bit more official.
How did you like going to school at Baylor?
Sorry.
I loved going to school at Baylor.
I've always wanted to ask her that question, what it was actually like at Baylor at the time.
I will say it was, the campus was beautiful. I loved my instructors. I never came from a very religious family, so I was a little concerned that I would feel kind of proselytized to. And there was some of that, but it wasn't super obnoxious-y. It was like, we're here if you are interested in any of that.
So is it a private university?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is Baptist.
Okay. So it's about, okay.
It is. And it was fantastic. There were multiple on campus museums. So unlike a lot of You can find museum studies programs everywhere now. They were not as plentiful back then. And one of the reasons I picked Baylor was because it was an on-site program. You had all your courses there with actual in-person instructors. I met with them. They had all worked in various parts of the field. And on campus alone, they had an archive museum combo. They had a living history museum, they had a fine art museum, and they had a natural history museum. And that is in addition to all the other local museums that were available to intern in. So really, any kind of museum you wanted to try out, you would be able to down there. And it was fantastic.
Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah.
So you found your love, which is museum studies or whatever. So what was your degree in, your master's?
So that one was a Master of Arts in Museum Studies. And then my first one was a Master of Library and Information Studies. So an MLIS and an MA in Museum Studies.
Yeah. Did you ever think about getting a doctorate?
I did, and that was my original intent. I have a family member with a PhD, and I wanted to be the second one. And after my second master's, excuse me, I was done.
Yeah.
I was very done. I was so done. I was ready to join the real world.
Wall, you can't, it's hard to,
Yeah, I bonked it. That was it. I was done. I wrote my thesis, and it wrote me, and we were both done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your thesis?
Fiducial responsibility for museum collections, I believe was the title. And yeah, it was a lot of surveys.
Yeah.
No one should read it. It's
it's public, people can read it. It's publicly out there.
Yeah. You could look it up on one of the thesis. There are companies that you can get theses from. And yeah. No one should read it.
Not plugging that. Yeah. At the end of the podcast, you're not going to plug and check out my thesis.
No. I told you guys I'm not a creator. I'm a consumer.
Yeah.
And I proved the case there. I mean, I defended and I passed, and it was all fine. But it was a lot of numbers. It was a lot of numbers. Did I tell you it was numbers? It was lots of.
Yeah. So was there charts? There
were charts.
I'm sure.
There was a lot of me begging people to answer my freaking survey. It was, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't like to even remember it now. It's painful. Keep me away from the painful topics, Cade.
Sorry. I love that that's more painful than the pastor story.
It was. Let's get back. Yeah. Oh. My thesis, it broke me. It broke me, and I was done, and I went to get a real job. So my first real museum job outside of school was at the Sam Noble in Norman. And I loved Norman. I still miss Norman to this day. Norman was a fantastic place to live. It was wonderful. And at the time I was there was a whole group of young professional women. We were all kind of within the same 10-year age span. And they were just the most fantastic group of women. Super inspirational and smart and funny. And so we had this great just sort of network of support. And it was fantastic. And that museum, one of the best in the state. So it was wonderful working there, because also I've never been like a hard science person. I always leaned more towards literature and the arts, and but I like the idea of hard science. So when I worked there, I was not a scientist, but if I wanted to put a lab coat on, I could, and I totally pretended that I was a scientist. I never was. I was a collection tech, unofficially called the Bug Lady. At that time. And I totally owned it. I had a little GIF in my signature with a little bug crawling. And I freaked a lot of people on staff out at the time, because they'd be like, I thought that was a real bug on my screen.
Isn't it like a research museum?
Yes. So it is an active natural history museum. So
it's on the campus of OU, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's on the campus.
Yep. I've been there.
And it is the State Natural History Museum. And all of the ologies that are under that roof have students and professors that are all actively collecting and doing research. So there were multiple collections. It's been years, but you've had mammalogy and ichthyology and ornithology and archaeology and ethnology, vertebrate paleontology, invertebrate paleontology. There's just, the whole gamut.
Which is why that you're our science person.
I am the trivia team's unofficial science person because I did soak in some of that while I was there.
Just the fact that people come from all over the world, literally, to utilize, the information, the archives, and everything that's stored at that museum. It's phenomenal. Just the mice alone.
Yeah.
You tell me about the mice.
And now they have like the second largest frozen tissue collection in the world. It's kind of amazing. It's really, the stuff they're doing there is just fantastic. But so talking about not knowing what's going on, that was a fantastic museum to be behind the scenes at, because half of the museum is exhibits and the other half are labs where people are prepping specimens, and then you've got the bug room that I ran with dermestid beetle colonies that clean all the skeletal parts. So when, say, mammalogy goes out into the field, a class does, they go somewhere and they do a lot of collecting and they come back with a lot of dead stuff. At that time, I don't know what their procedures are like then, but at that time, the stuff would come back and it would go upstairs to the various labs where students would prep the items. And when you have a finished specimen, you want to have a skin and a skeleton for it, and they're stored separately. And so everything would be skinned, and then they would get as much meat as they could off the bone, and then dry out what was left. And so you'd wind up with like this little piece of what looked like mouse, a little skinned mouse jerky thing that would come down to the bug room to me. And I would put it in with the beetles, and you'd have to monitor. And by that, I don't mean sit there and stare at them. Although if you were in the room for a while and you had several big domestic colonies going at once, you could actually hear the chewing. It was really kind of freaky. Anyway. And then they would eat the flesh off the bones. But for little tiny rodents and for things like little bitty bats, you'd have to be really careful because some of their bones were so delicate that the bugs could actually damage them if you left things in too long. So you'd leave them in, then you'd take the bones out when they were relatively clean and wash everything and dry it, and then it would go back up. Actually, it would go to our CO2 bubble, which I ran while I was there. So it was actually the inside of the bubble was bigger than this room. And every few weeks, everything from the bug room and new stuff coming in from the outside would go into that bubble. And I would suck all the air out of the bubble, and I would pump it full of CO2, and I would keep it that way. And it's been years, but I think I would keep it that way for like 2 weeks at a time. It was long enough so that it would kill not only anything active on the specimens then, but it would kill anything that hatched in the middle of that process. It would be long enough to get any of that stuff too.
Keep in mind, if we're talking roadkill would come in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, we got roadkill.
She's a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
We did get roadkill, but most of it was actual specimens that the students would go out and actually get in the field. We did get roadkill because here's the thing, the weird thing about that museum. So I had like the best ways to kill someone. I could knock them out and I could put them in the bubble and asphyxiate them. And then I could take them out to the bug room and basically get rid of them. And I'm sure there was some kind of acid somewhere in the building that I could have, once the bones were clean, I could have just taken them up there but no better place to kill someone than a natural history museum. But everyone who worked there had permits to pick up roadkill, because sometimes they would see stuff that would look really good. And it's dead, but it looks like it's in pretty good shape. So they'd want to stop and pick something up. And a lot of people don't know you have to have a permit to do that. So most of them, you would think they were serial killers if you pulled them over, because they all had like duct tape and trash bags and shovels in the back of their car. But it was all like to if they ever saw interesting roadkill, so they'd be prepared to stop and get anything. One time we had a bobcat that came in, and it was fresh. It had just been hit by a car. And like the woman behind the car that had hit it was the one that brought it in. And it was so fresh, I could see the fleas hopping off of it. All over my office. In fact, it was, so we had to bag it real quick. Once the mammalogy collection manager came down and said that yes, indeed, she didn't want to keep it. So, it was,
Every time I think about how cool Jennifer's job is, I'm grateful that I was in financial services.
And if you want to learn more about Diane's history in financial services, you can watch her podcast, right?
Yeah, and you want to hear about anything gross. When you say collect specimens, if they would go out in the field and collect specimens, would they bring them in alive?
No, they'd be dead by then.
They would kill whatever specimen they were collecting?
Yes, and I was never part of any of those trips, so I could tell you, I saw one of them kill something. So they would always try and do it in a way that wouldn't mess up the skin.
Damage it, yeah.
Yes. Because all these things are for study. So we had some rodents, an infestation in the building at one point. And I trapped one live, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I called someone there, and I'm not going to tell you who it was, but they were a very normal, kind person who came down and identified what it was. And it was nothing they were going to be interested in. And I just was completely nonplussed. Well, what do I mean, because I knew they didn't want me to just take it outside and let it go where it's just going to run back in the building. So this individual, I had emptied it out into a little baggie, and this individual took the baggie and then basically squeezed it. And when I say squeezed it, I don't mean so like till eyes were popping out or anything gross happened, but almost like a snake would. I mean, they just slowly squeezed, and I sat there, and you could hear it like inside the baggie. And meanwhile, this person's just carrying on a normal conversation with me. It's like the biggest power move I have ever seen. And if I had been afraid of this person, it was so intimidating. It was just like, they're like, yeah. And so I'm doing this, and this weekend, I think we're going to do that. And this whole thing, the whole time, they're squeezing this thing to death, this little rodent. Anyway, that's how they would do some of that. So I saw that. I didn't see the way most of the stuff, not most, all of the stuff was dead by the time it came in and got to me. They did not bring living things into the museum, at least at that time. Yeah. So,
that's fun.
That's a fun, tearful story.
Yeah. We've walked us through most of the stuff, right? There.
So how did you go from the bug lady?
Yeah.
Well, we can pause on this, Diane. We have segments that we have to get to.
I'm sorry.
Well, I do have some more. So at some point, I will tell you about a bug in my hair, and I will also tell you about a kangaroo roadkill that I handled in there one time.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so you have that to look forward to. More gross stories.
More gross stories.
With us coming up.
Well, okay. You talked about animals. You talked about different things. You like history. You like you're fascinated by a lot of things. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to do a lore crime.
Oh, okay. All right, lore crime.
That was perfect, Diane.
I was sweating that. I was like, oh my gosh, which button is it?
So last time, before we jump into this, we learned quite a bit about Captain Crunch, right? Correct? Diane,
Yes, we did.
briefly, if you could tell us briefly about all the stuff you knew about Captain.
I absolutely knew nothing about Captain Crunch until we did a podcast, and I learned so much about Captain Crunch.
Walk us through what you learned.
I have PTSD from that.
Yeah.
I'm ready for another lore crime. Maybe. That's what we'll decide.
We'll decide if you're ready for it or not. You guys know Canada, right?
Vaguely.
Okay. So here is your lore crime. This is Fernie, British Columbia. Okay. This is where it's at in the map. You can kind of see, right?
Yes.
Lot of it's across from Montana. See it?
It was south of Calgary.
Yeah, south of Calgary. It's kind of that's where it's at in the map. You understand? You understand physically where it's at?
Yes.
Anything you at any point, if you want to guess where this is going, feel free. So it's a small town, as you can see here on this little thing. It says Fernie is a city in the Elk Valley area of East Kootenay region of southeastern British Columbia.
Can we call it Kootenay? I just want to call it that. I know that's not how you pronounce that, but it'll just be more fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fernie in East Kootenay.
Yep.
Okay.
Fernie, British Columbia. Real beautiful. Look at that.
It is gorgeous.
Really, see that mountains that's right out there?
Northern edge of the Rocky Mountains, right
Yes.
Is the crime that we're not there? Is that where we're heading?
Yeah. I mean, right now would probably be a really good time to go. Okay, so most of our stuff's going to be on the Fernie, British Columbia tourism page, their website.
Okay.
Because we're really, really wanting to check out this place and understand what's going on.
Are you doing this because Jennifer was supposed to have learned all of the interesting
Sneaky way to make me learn Canada geography.
Wait, isn't this a fun thing? Don't you want to know about this? It's really fun
I'm
to
just
learn
looking
more.
for the ulterior motive here.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like, oh, don't you know where this is at in the map?
Apparently, trivia always does come first.
Yeah,
It does.
It does come first, and I'll sneak it into your podcast if you don't know. But just so everyone's aware, Jennifer was supposed to learn all the regions of Canada.
I don't recall that. I don't think that's how that happened.
Yeah, it was. I was there too.
Yeah. And we've needed that a few different times.
Yes.
Senators, I have no memory of that.
So anyways,
Take a fifth.
Okay, I do.
beautiful place.
Okay.
Beautiful place. So let's look at tourism, Fernie, or .com.
We're going to get to know Fernie?
We're going to get to know
Can we
Fernie.
get to know
All
Fernie?
right, let's get to know Fernie.
So this get to know Fernie. This is Fernie and the Elk Valley. Look at that. Oh my God, it's beautiful.
it is gorgeous.
This is what it says on here. Fernie is a true mountain community, reveling in Mother Nature's delights.
Now, the reveling disturbs me.
Reveling.
Is this going to be like Midsummer kind of? Are we?
If you can at any point guess what's going on here, I'll leave it to you.
I think we're heading into human sacrifice, Diane.
Is this
I'm worried about
real?
that.
Fernie is a thriving cultural scene. It has a thriving cultural scene. The enthusiasm of a vibrant, youthful population and a scenic, tranquil location in the heart of the Canadian Rocky Mountains. Located in the southeastern British Columbia, Canada, Fernie is a 3-hour drive west from Calgary, Alberta, 11-hour drive east of Vancouver, and a 2-hour drive north of Kalispell, Montana, USA.
Vibrant, youthful population reveling in Mother Nature's delights. This is getting disturbing. So, is this going to be like Children of the Corn, but it's Children of the Mountains? Is that what's going on here?
At any point, I'll let you know if you get there, if you get close, or if you get it right off.
I wonder if this could have anything to do with Glacier National Park. Since this is very close to that location. And as I pointed out in the trivia game the other night,
Not everything's about trivia, Diane.
I was still right.
As you can tell, Fernie, I mean, like the map, it looks very kind of rustic. It's got the little maple leaf, British Columbia. Explore, inspire me, plan,
You can book
engage.
your trip.
Travel. Really great site, by the way.
Shows it was founded in 1898.
Yes, incorporated in 1904.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's got 5,000 people.
Mountain Standard Time. So,
Fernie's temperate.
But are they 5,000 cultists?
sure.
We have been inviting visitors to come enjoy Fernie since 1919, when the Tourism Association of Southern Alberta and Southeastern British Columbia was founded to promote Fernie, the Crow's Nest Pass, as a Rocky Mountain destination. The opening of Snow Valley Ski Development, a locally owned company, in January 1963, and Fernie's bid for the 1968 Winter Olympics helped lay the foundation of today's Fernie's Alpine Resort. They're a ski place. I think that was someone. Yeah.
And yet I still don't know where we're going with this.
I don't know either.
Visitors to Fernie often describe their Fernie experience as authentic. Perhaps it's our centuries-old downtown and rich history. Perhaps it's our pristine natural environment. Or maybe it's our friendly, down-to-earth community. Visitors would say it's all three, really. Because we work hard. We play hard, too. Come and join us, and you'll fall in love with Fernie, too. I rhymed two with two, but,
Yeah, that was good.
Does Fernie not really exist?
He's going to do something terrible to us.
I know.
What is Fernie? Oh, you can't see that. It's kind of, what is Fernie? It's a cool small-town charm. Fernie's funky main street with its turn-of-the-century brick buildings framed by postcard-perfect mountains provides this rugged and unpolished little town with a unique charm.
How can you be funky and rugged and unpolished?
Mountain culture. From the pickup trucks and mountain bikes that travel its streets to the ski bums and gift or guide shops that line them, Fernie's distinct mountain culture is evident in almost every turn. Mountain culture, okay? Mountain culture is number two.
I know about that. One of my grandmas was bought in the mountains.
What?
She was bought. Yeah, on my father's side. I'm telling you, that's that side of the family's different.
Mountain culture.
Yeah, she was bought when she was 13. By my grandpa.
That's a fascinating story.
I'm full of lovely.
I'll to ask that a little bit.
I'm good at spice on the side. When I'm the main dish, things get disturbing.
I'm disturbed.
Yeah.
Stunning scenery. Fernie is a magnificent outdoor seating.
Is your grandma from Eastern Europe?
No, Arkansas.
Arkansas.
She was bought in Arkansas.
That's a lot more interesting of a story, but we can't unpack that yet, Diane.
Sorry, I just lost that for me. I'm sorry. I'm getting back into it now. Stunning scenery.
Yes. We'll have to put a pin in that one and ask that in a second.
I'm definitely going down that road.
That's it. We see the turnoff, but we can't go down there just yet until we have this other destination that we get to. Fernie is a magnificent outdoor setting from which to experience beauty and majesty of the Canadian Rocky Mountains. It's real and authentic. Fernie's casual, comfortable, and laid-back place where a local community still thrives. A community first, destination second. Fernie is a packaged experience for the mass tourist. It's adventurous and outdoorsy. It's euphoric. Fernie is an escape from the hurried pace of everyday life.
So euphoric is an actual category there.
Yes, it is.
Okay, as opposed to adventurous and outdoorsy.
So marijuana is legal there.
It provides euphoric experiences to its visitors and residents.
Marijuana is legal. It's got to
be. Unique moments of anticipation, achievement, and the beauty of its natural surroundings.
What are we anticipating?
It's down to earth, enduring history. It has a rich history that is alive and thriving to this day. Community minded.
Resiliency that stems from their hardworking. What do they work hard at, Cade?
Yeah. So now you understand. So now have you got to know Fernie? Does that answer your questions?
It answers none of them. It just creates more.
I'm a little afraid at this point.
Okay. I am too.
Now we're going to go to an overview of Fernie's history. Oh, look.
Miners. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, railroad guys. Yeah. Oh, this is like that TV series that you tell me about with Timothy Oliphant.
Mm-hmm. It's Justified.
No, not Justified. The one before that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I love
the
Justified.
Book of Boba Fett. Fire's destroyed Fernie.
That's not what before means. Okay, so fire's destroyed.
This takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Oh, well, yes. Chronologically speaking, you are correct.
It talks about fires over there and chateau and different stuff if you want to learn more about that. But Fernie is named after William Fernie, who alongside Colonel James Baker was the driving force behind the coal mines located here. Starting in 1887, for 10 long years, they struggled to raise the money necessary to build not only the mines, but also the railways needed to transport the coal to the outside world. The outside world.
Like I said, it's a cult, isn't it? It's a cult.
Finally, in 1879, they achieved their goals through effectively losing control of the company to Eastern interests.
Okay.
Is that through or though? It's though.
Though effectively losing control.
JC got Bigfoot in front of it. Couldn't read that. That changes that sentence.
In this case, it's big head, isn't it? It's big head's in front of that.
Sorry, on their screen that they're looking up at, there's a giant Bigfoot thing that's blocking the bottom corner. The boom of the coal industry. You don't need to know about all the coal, do you?
Let's get to the cult.
Tourism in Fernie. They try to get the Olympics.
Let's get to the inside. It described getting their stuff to the outside.
Mm-hmm. I don't think this is going to go exactly the way that you think.
I don't think it is either.
Skiing. They got a history of skiing.
Yeah. They probably have some avalanches.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's... Yeah.
42 feet.
Okay, this kind of gives away some things. Okay. Legend has it, Fernie's story starts way back in 1879 with the birth of the Grizz.
Okay.
Okay, what do you think about that? What's jumping out at you right now?
Is this like a abominable snowman kind of a thing? Are we
Legend
talking
have it,
Yeti?
The birth of the Grizz.
I've got one of his cups.
Mm-hmm. The Grizz is credited with bringing the plentiful powder up to 42 feet in a season to Fernie.
Human sacrifice.
Year after year.
I knew it was going to go mid-summer.
With snow comes skiing. In Fernie, folks started hiking up the local mountains to ski long before the first lifts were installed.
Well, yeah. How would you do it?
Right there, Legend of the Grizz. That's what we want to know.
Read more. Legend of the Grizz.
Got to know what the Grizz is.
But first, there's all this history.
We don't care. What's the Grizz?
Bring us the Grizz. We need
Let's
to
go
know.
to the Grizz.
We may have to make a trip.
Oh, wait, that's Ghost Rider? What does that have to do with the Grizz?
There you go. The Grizz.
This is the Grizz?
Okay, they have a
This
parade.
is a parade.
There's a parade, Grizz Days, Winter Parade.
Is
Rich
that-
in folklore and campfire tales, Fernie can spin a yarn to entertain any visitor. The Legend of the Grizz. Okay.
I can spin a yarn, but I need more information.
Do you want to watch a video?
Yes, please. Is this going to be footage of the Grizz?
Fernie is a small mountain town located in the spectacular Elk Valley in the world-famous
Capo. And if any point you need to let me know and to take something in, okay?
Okay.
Canadian Rocky Mountains of southeastern British Columbia.
Oh, it's slightly sped up. Because I know you like that, right, Jennifer?
I do.
Oh!
Oh, the Grizz is going to...
Was that a personification of the Grizz?
It's a white grizzly bear.
Oh, they just axed that monster energy. Did you see that?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, look at him give me his thumb up.
We'd like to acknowledge that Fernie is located in the traditional territory of the Ktunaxa Nation,
Good.
which has history going back 10,000 years in this beautiful valley. The Grizz legend
all
is a
they're gonna
well-known
do
tale
about
to
that.
citizens. It describes a man larger and broader than any
Oh,
man.
sorry.
That makes the colonization okay, Kate. You just have to give
you
that
just
little...
gotta give the little sentence.
That's right.
Yeah, that's good.
The Grizz legend is a well-known tale to the citizens of Fernie, BC. It describes a man larger and broader than any man, dressed in bearskins and carrying a massive musket, which is the key to Fernie's legendary powder.
Grizzly Adams. I knew it.
So what's going on there? How did this thing? What's filling the gaps here? So what's the Grizz? Well, as of
Is
right now,
this their Paul Bunyan?
It's probably going to be like that. Or Grizzly Adams. They did a movie about it. Did you not see it?
I did not see that.
Okay. Well, this would make more sense to you if you'd seen the movie.
Okay.
That man had a great beard. The guy that played Grizzly Adams. I don't know who.
All
it was.
dressed in bear skins. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
Dan
go.
Haggerty. That's who played it.
In the midst of the cruel, bitter winter of 1879, a baby boy was born in a grizzly bear's cave high in the mountains above Fernie. The child grew
Pause.
strong in the harsh conditions.
Will Rogers was born in 1879. Okay, please continue.
Lots of legends born in 1879.
That's right.
It could have been long lost twins.
And when the resident grizzly bear awoke, a terrible battle ensued between the two. The courageous boy fighting for his life, and the bear fighting for his dinner. The next day, the townspeople went into the mountains to try to discover the source of all the noise from the previous night. They looked high and low for signs of a struggle. One of the men thought he saw a young boy in a bear coat leaping from the lofty peaks. But the story was soon forgotten. Many years later, a group of intrepid ski tours were boot packing in the peaks of the Lizard Range in the midst of a heavy snowstorm. When they stopped for a breath, one of the men looked up at the peak that they were climbing. There on the very summit stood a fantastic sight. A man, estimated 300 pounds, was made to look even more awesome with his bristly grizzly coat. As the skiers watched, the man aimed his giant musket into the clouds and fired, causing blankets of snow to fall from the sky above. This delighted the skiers, who loved that special brand of powder snow. The skiers quickly skied down the mountain and excitedly told everyone their experience. Some of the town's elders remember the sighting of the little Grizz boy from years long ago. And with the discovery of massive barefoot tracks upon the snow-topped peaks, the legend slowly took shape.
He's famous for all the snow, and it's pretty well known that the snow comes from the Grizz, and the Grizz is the mountain man with the musket.
Grizz makes it snow. He's the half man, half bear, half wolf. What is it?
Short, stout man, shoulders of 6 feet wide, and he grew up with a family of grizzly bears in the mountains.
If there's any clouds, he can shoot powder.
Crusty old trapper with a gun that shoots powder, bearded little trapper dude, with snowshoes and mucklucks.
So this is a feral child.
Yes. But he's a bearded little trapper dude, which is what I should have.
And instead of going and trying to take care of this child, they're like, well, leave it out there.
Because it's bringing us good luck.
And we're going to call it an it instead of a he. And it's going to be the Grizz instead of, okay.
And somehow it's going to get a gun that shoots snow.
It's a supernatural gun.
I guess so.
I like the idea.
Well, it shoots clouds, and then the clouds give us the snow.
But then they changed that in the course of this and actually said the guns shoot snow.
This just shoots powder.
Powder, right.
Yeah. In my head, I thought that he kind of disrupted some things up top and caused some shaking of the
Don't try to add science.
Because he's 300 pounds. But that's not enough to start a mountain anything. What they're describing would be like a 1,000-pound man.
Great little mythical creature like the Sasquatch or the unicorn.
300 is not mythical.
People believe it to a certain extent. There has to be something special because this small
But is it mythological like Sasquatch or a unicorn? It's a person, right?
Or a big bear.
It was a person to begin with, but now it's the Grizz. As soon as you put the in front of it, it quits being a person. Which I'm requesting now. I would like to be the Jennifer of the group.
As much snow as it does.
In recognition and admiration of the man who became known as Grizz, the townspeople held a festival all week.
No, he's already wrong.
Competitions, parades,
It's the Grizz.
and gatherings marked the legend. What started as Winter Festival, held at Fernie Snow
That's
Valley,
just wrong.
later became Grizz Days in 1979. Usually held in the first weekend of March, Grizz Days has become a long-standing Fernie tradition for decades. The first Grizz Days was a 2-week-long festival. It was incredibly rowdy, and there was not nearly as family-oriented.
As Fernie's first Grizz, when I used to ski here, and that's all I did here was ski here at that time. Winter Carnival they had for years was starting to lose interest.
Anything you wanted to know but didn't know how.
And what do they mean by less family oriented? What kind of activity?
They just breezed over.
Yeah, they did I want to know what they were doing up here.
Well, it says band English teachers, so that should tell you something.
It does. Oh my.
Wow. We had fun. All had fun practicing with an S. I don't know if that's a thing in Canada where they spell practices. Practicing isn't with an S, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
The British version. I would think so.
Yeah.
They use S's instead of C's, and
but are speeches with EA?
Now that I don't think so.
It says we had fun practicing our speeches.
Maybe that's because they banned the English teachers, and that's why things are spelled
maybe it's actually funny. Maybe this is supposed to be funny.
Probably.
Okay.
Could be.
It's not family friendly,
So it says, so there's a cabaret at the community center featuring Sweeney Todd, Roxy Roller, and All the Rage in Paris. This is an adult cabaret and no one under 19 will be admitted. Crowning of the Grizz to take place at the cabaret.
I want to know what crowning of the Grizz is. It can't just be the crowning of the Grizz. That's a euphemism for something, I'm sure.
The one thing that I learned on
I'll be
my trip
disappointed
to
if it's
Alaska, which isn't far from here, is that this entire portion, of the Yukon and all that was all actually settled by prostitutes.
Well, that is fun.
Yeah. There were prostitutes and gold miners, and that was it.
But they do have a pancake breakfast, so that's always good.
Oh, pancakes, man.
That makes it all good.
Pancakes make everything good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They should never be forgotten or set aside.
Well, they obviously have pancakes all the time. Did you see those dad jeans?
So they invented the Grizz contest.
6 or 8 local men would be selected to compete through an unending list of events and challenges to win over the votes of the panel of
Wait,
female judges.
unending? So this man needs to work on the way he describes things.
The competition involved beard growing, axe throwing, tall tale.
Beer. So that'd have to be beforehand, right? The beer growing wouldn't be just through that week.
Telling, beer guzzling, ski racing, snowshoe racing, and much, much more. It was also a pretty heavy drinking event, according to some of Fernie's past grizzes.
Frankly, things got well out of control.
I didn't want that wink.
There was limited rules. It was just a wide open, let her rip.
Oh, my.
And they went off famously.
Oh, okay, there's a lot of fun stuff in there.
Would you take a Grizz contestant home for dinner? Those look like mugshots. I've never seen hairier men anywhere.
What makes a fellow want to be the Grizz of Fernie's Grizz days? There are reasons. I was like, is that sentence okay. Take Fred Hoth, a 6 foot, 185 pounder. Just let's say, describe you being accustomed to the outdoors, who says he is always interested in community affairs. Quote, I just want to show those other guys what a real man is. End quote. He's a Fernie native.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So real men are Grizzes.
Mm-hmm.
But the Grizz is the mythical Grizz.
Yeah, I guess people try to,
So is the Grizz the missing link? Like we've been thinking maybe it was Bigfoot, but Bigfoot is actually further towards the opposite end.
Yeah.
The Grizz is between Bigfoot and humans.
And humans, yeah.
Okay.
And partying for a week. So it was.
Oh, sorry. Did you say something?
Those guys all look like a missing link.
Mm-hmm.
They do. So is the Grizz, so Bigfoot had a baby with a human woman and it was the Grizz.
It's possible.
No, I think we nailed it.
I think we
nailed it, guys.
Too. You did. You came up with it. It's the truth. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the dirty secret this entire town is hiding.
I'm reading through all this stuff if there's anything interesting.
Any male caught on or during Grizz days without a beard. Oh, okay. Not sure what happens to guys that don't have a beard.
Yeah. Lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
It was a free-for-all, really, and it was a lot of fun. And everyone had their Grizz regalia on. And the crown was a coonskin hat.
Oh.
You know, folklore about the Grizz and how he brings the snow. And the more people think about that and believe in it and celebrate it, the better it is.
One year, we're again sitting in the Fernie Hotel, Grizz Days afternoon. Sees a bunch of rowdy guys break in with their black powder rifles and want to kidnap one of the waitresses. Take a big stack of money that had a big dollar sign on it.
I didn't listen to this far in the video.
That does not sound like fun to me. A bunch of huge bearded men kidnapping you from your work.
I haven't seen any women in any of this video so far. Have you?
That's why they have to kidnap them.
I think maybe it's the guys without the beard is considered women.
Promulgate more Grizzes.
It's a nice prompt. Anyway, and they were were the something or the Dalton gang or whoever they were, and don't mess with us. And the one gentleman aimed his rifle up at the ceiling and fired it off. And there's no ammo in there, but there's a blast from the rifle. Took out the false ceiling tile and actually put a hole in the tile, and the tile started smoldering and filling up the place with smoke. So immediately, 3 or 4 gentlemen from the surrounding tables grabbed their glasses of beer and threw it up on the tile and drenched the tile and put out the fire. And the guy says, "Oh yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, okay. So we're the Dalton gang, and don't mess with us." And out the door they go, and just without skipping a beat.
Dalton gang's also kind of
outside though. The sheriff was waiting, and they had a big shootout in the parking lot, and everybody died. So, but it was a lot of fun. Typical Grizz days.
Perfect way to end that.
Everybody died. Everybody died.
Everybody died.
As part of the Grizz Days, and we started the Dummy Downhill because a lot of the events occurred downtown, and we wanted something to bring the people up to the ski hill. I had seen the Dummy Downhill on a Warren Miller show, so I phoned the resort in Colorado that had held it, and they sent me a lot of specs on it, and the dummy downhill started at Fernie. And it was such a success that, of course, it became part of Grizz Days.
That's kind of fun.
It was just such a fun event. I remember saying to someone, can you believe it? I'm getting paid to do this. It's so much fun.
waiting for the other shoe to drop,
I remember Grizz Days
Cade.
as a little girl, so I remember the huge parades.
That waitress they kidnapped, she was tied to one of those and sent down the hill.
Well, there's no dull
Again,
moments.
these are the only two women we've seen this entire thing.
Yeah.
Candy on the ground, and we invited other towns like Kimberly and Cranbrook with their pipe
Well, of
bands
course,
and all
yeah.
that came. And
Or go directly to jail. Okay.
Sorry, yeah. For those non-visually just listening to it, there's a headline on the. They show several papers on here, and the headline's right on the screen right now. It says, "Grizz Days: buy a Grizz Days pin or go directly to jail."
And opposite that, it says race a dummy grizzly. Interesting. Okay, so this is going to go on our list, right, of things we've got to go and see.
now we get all of our local bands here, like Shred Kelly, and so it's nice to see that. I like the nostalgia of Grizz Days and the story behind the Grizz. I think there's always histories and stories behind everything, and I think that's great.
But where's the story?
Over the
It's
years,
a feral
Grizz Days has
child.
evolved, but continues to be celebrated in a variety of ways.
Again, no women in
Although
any
many
of these
original events
pictures.
still remain.
Who controls the
Babies.
weather? Now they're having baby races.
And there are now events for the whole family to enjoy.
They've run out of stock footage. Oh no, there's some. Oh, there you go.
The annual
That
Grizz
was some
competition
crimped
is held
hair.
during Grizz
That's
Days.
the crime.
With a
That's
hard
the
focus
lower
on
crime
brains
right
and
there. Yeah.
brawn, where the town's toughest take on a full day of challenges, starting with pancake eating, continuing to axe throwing, and then on to a variety of mountain-sized events. This is a true tribute to the Grizz.
Tribute to the Grizz.
Happy Grizz Days.
Oh.
My name is Dave O'Hare, and I was lucky enough to come to Fernie in
So, anything?
1970 when skiing was just about to take off. And
Diane, for people who are listening only to audio, could you please describe this man? just purely physical appearance, just so everyone knows. Yeah, no opinion.
35 without the badge.
And what's he wearing and everything? What's his attire?
Oh my God. I'm not really sure. I can tell you it's a plaid shirt and a tie that I'm not. It's wider than any tie I've ever seen in my life.
My God, the pattern.
And then a vest with
Is it
all
clashing at
kinds
all?
of-
Is this visually appealing, or is it?
Why are you asking me that?
He's wearing a vest full of pins, full of pins and stickers and stuff.
It's called Flash.
Yes. Okay.
and other industry was starting to climb. Person here was made, this is almost 30 years old. There was one of the staff.
He's talking about
at
a
the
pin on
ski
a
hill
shirt.
Made Grizz a bunch of these. So those were a Winterfest type pin. And then it morphed into Grizz Days. So, and everybody embraced it. The chamber, the businesses, we're all looking for a theme, you know.
2010, Vancouver Winter Olympics.
Did you see those sideburns?
1970 is calling that guy back.
Yeah.
Grizz Days are right after that. So I drive my hearse. I used to have this 71
I
Cadillac
think
hearse.
the more you go to Grizz Days, the hairier you get, whether you're a man or a woman.
Yeah, I think It has to be because I haven't seen any women yet.
Have you heard
so.
this about the hearse?
He brought his hearse to Grizz Days.
A gorgeous car. So I drove that car in the Grizz parade, and I put a big sign on it that said RIP U.S. Hockey. And everybody loved it. The
That's
crowd was
hilarious.
cheering, and it really went over incredibly well. And it made me feel really good because I kind of felt like a real Canadian.
During the Grizz Days Festival, the Grizz's likeness is found.
So Canadians aren't nice.
No, they're not.
They have this nice reputation, but secretly.
I don't know if you see what he is. This guy who's talking
The Fernie Meat Market?
This is Mark Brown from the Fernie Meat Market.
Okay.
On every furry lapel in town in support of the Grizz Days Pin Lottery. Each year, there is a different pin design to mark the year's celebration.
But it's
These
just a
pins are purchased in
year.
the collect-
The different design is just the same thing. It just says 81, 82.
Yeah, but it's the same thing.
Item, or as a chance to win $1,000 cash. The lottery is run by Fernie
they
Rotary,
changed
supported by local
colors
businesses who
in
sell
the
the pins,
90s.
with the proceeds going to local charities.
And one of my favorite Grizz Days memories is just selling Grizz pins. You know, with the Rotary Club,
former mayor
that's
talking.
been our role for a long time. And you're getting out there just selling grizz pins, and some people are like, "What's this?" They've never been here before. They're here for a ski vacation, and you tell them about the grizz and tell them about grizz days, and all of a sudden they're part of it. They just arrived from somewhere else, and now they're wearing a grizz pin, and they become part of Fernie. To other people who are like, "What?"
They're part of it because they're wearing a thing.
Yeah, it's a cult.
Okay.
Okay.
I would show you.
Is Fernie cursed?
Is that one of the things?
Is it the curse? There on the right. It's another video.
Oh, okay.
Is it the curse of the grizz?
The real story of the curse of Fernie. Oh, well, Jesus. Gotta see that.
I'd heard the entire town of Fernie once lived under a curse.
When you're a kid and you grow up in Fernie, that's all you ever heard. There would be strife, there would be fire, there would be flood, and they had all those things.
There's the Ghost Rider curse. It dates back to the late 1800s.
They don't talk about that.
There was a Ghost Rider curse. I didn't go into that, but yes. So, okay.
Its origins. Can you tell us the story of the Ghost Rider as you know it?
I think the most kind of common thread is that William Fernie was out here prospecting, got out to Nah.
So this is your people right now. This is
this is the curator.
Curator of the Fernie. But yes, there is also a Ghost Rider legend. I forgot to mention that one.
Okay.
Where the coal deposits were. William Fernie made an agreement with the chief for showing him where the coal was, would marry his daughter. Once he knows where all this deposits were, William Fernie decided, I'm not going to follow through with this, and rode away. And it was at that moment that the chief placed a curse on the valley.
And just so Fernieites didn't forget, shadows on a cliff would remind them.
We can't see it right now? We can't see it on the mountain right now, but it's just basically on the side of Mount Hosmer over there.
And you can see it when there's no snow.
When there's no snow and it's a really bright day. This is supposed to be William Fernie.
Okay.
That's supposed to be the chief. That's supposed to be his daughter. This is very ingrained into who we are as a community.
It's certainly a dramatic story, but one that paints the Tanaha Nation as a bunch of villains. So
I was going to say, that's all Indigenous people do here is curse them?
We don't really have a story on the Ghost Rider curse. The basis of the story about,
Okay, you're going to ruin this video unless you tell me something. That's the nod of, okay, I set up all these cameras and please just say something, please.
That's kind of true.
Yeah.
We were kind of cheated out of the land, however you look at it.
Yeah.
We don't do curses, and I was telling somebody, well, even if we did do a curse, we wouldn't take it back. So I think what's wrong with the story is blaming misfortune on the First Nations as opposed to taking ownership of that and saying, well, these lands were built here. And
yeah, they're not blaming the white grizz.
You drive through here, you don't even know that there's a history longer than Canadian Confederacy.
In 1958, the big mine that employed a lot of the town closed down. The curse was blamed. Enough was enough. The town approached the Tanaha Nation to lift the curse that they never actually set.
So Mayor White, who was the mayor at the time.
Ouch. And once more, these gracious people are doing it.
The idea of, please take this. We didn't do it. Why do you keep coming? This doesn't exist. All this is,
And on August 15th, 1964, had this one-day ceremony.
I think it was more of a goodwill ambassador thing from both sides,
The curse-raising ceremony, I wouldn't say was a ceremony that we believe in. It was more of a acquiescing to the requests of the community.
Yeah.
The mayor came and he smoked the peace pipe. The Naha chief had said that the curse was lifted.
But secretly, that's when they really cursed all the ladies.
So, question is, lore crime, lore hero. What is this? What's this town and their folklore? And the Grizz in general.
If I didn't know about the ghost hunter, I might have been lore hero. But now that I do know that this is a lore crime.
This might be the closest to a lore crime that we've had now that we have all the information.
I think so, yes.
It really is. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Well, great. We're all in unison here about that. Well, great. Fernie, sorry. That's a lore crime.
Your town is a lore crime.
Now we can't ever be caught in Fernie.
No, we can't. Too bad. Our trip's now has to be canceled.
Oh man.
So who was sold?
Oh. I was like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So we were doing some genealogy on my father's side of the family, and one of my aunts told me that she had heard that my grandma was bought when she was 13 years old.
By
my grandpa.
At
somewhere in the mountains in Arkansas. And then brought to Oklahoma.
And she was 13?
She was 13, yeah. And she went by Jewel back then. And that was not her. She picked a more proper name later, Julia. Yeah. And was my grandma. Yeah. And would never talk about her history, which made it all the more mysterious. So I don't have that from her, but I did have that from one of my aunts on that side of the family.
May I ask a couple of questions?
Yes.
Sure.
Where at in Arkansas?
I don't know. I know the hills in northwestern Arkansas.
So the Ozarks region?
Yes.
Are you making notes about this?
Yeah.
Okay. She has a bunch of questions.
The buying of people is serious, Cade.
Okay.
You know, it really hasn't been that long ago since women weren't so. I mean, this is, if you look over the course of time, right? Mm-hmm. When they talk about having a diary, you know, in that dowry, women were sold with, that was a barter, a trade. Mm-hmm. And even in my generation, girls had hope chest. That was part of that, you know, here's what you get if you take this woman off our hands, kind of thing.
And I wish I knew more, because I never got the sense that it was all that happy, because he got, but I don't know if it's because of that or because I don't know if they were ever happy. I don't know. That was long before my time. And I heard he was sick a lot for the last several years of his life. And so sort of in my head, I watch lots of true crime, and after he died, she married his best friend who had been coming over to the house for years. And there was also some rumors that she and this guy had started their thing long before my grandpa died. But again, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know the truth of it.
So what you're suggesting, it's a Captain Crunch Brunhild situation.
I think so, but I think in this case Brunhild won, because I think she poisoned him slowly over many years, and lived the rest of her life with a man she liked. But again,
that's just a theory.
I have no proof. I have no proof at all. Yeah.
You know, my grandmother
Yeah.
Married my grandfather when she was 14. She's also from Arkansas, from the Waldo area. And,
interesting.
And it's very possible that she was sold. Mm-hmm. Not sure. Really. 14 is pretty young. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's not that uncommon, to be honest. You know,
and particularly at that time in this part of the country, because both sides of my family were super, super poor. So I can see that. And on that happy note, let's go back to squeezing rodents to death.
Well, cool. We do have a question sent in by an avid fan of ours.
Okay, great.
This time it's not Alex, but it is someone we've had previously on the show.
Hi guys, this is like my 20th time submitting a video, so hopefully this one will make it onto the Cade and Friends podcast. Huge fan. I really hope this one gets onto it. If you want to see some of my other submissions, just scroll up on the email. I'm sending an email in like every week, so please maybe choose this one. So my question is, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
It's a great. I love our fans. Love our fans. Superpower.
Flying. It'd be flying. I can think of a lot of interesting ones. I would like to have more than one. Why one? Mm-hmm. Why one?
So
did Anonymous give a name? He gave no name.
Gave no name. Yeah, I'd have to go back through the email. I don't recognize.
I don't think he has any superpowers.
I think, to me, I don't like heights all that much, so flying wouldn't be too good. But like teleportation would be good.
That would be good, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just to be anywhere you'd want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have an opinion?
Yeah, I would like to be invisible.
Okay. Yeah. You'd like to be able to turn that off and on, though? Or just be invisible forever?
No, to turn it off and on.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Then I could fly, right? Get onto any airplane.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. You could go anywhere you wanted to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You had to find like a seat that was open.
There's always a seat open on an airplane. There's one in the bathroom. There's the flight attendant seats. I mean, there are places.
Yeah. Do you think that you would spook the person next to you if they you were sitting in a seat that was vacant, and do you think they would sense your presence there?
I don't know. Uh-huh. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you for certain. Mm-hmm. I know I've spooked people on airplanes before, so it's very possible.
Have you spooked people on airplanes before, Dad?
Well, let's see. During the flight simulation, pretty sure that scared that guy to death when I climbed over him to get off the burning plane.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and if you want, you can look at our TikToks if you want that.
That was a fantastic story.
Mm-hmm. You were there in person, yeah. And you
For the story, yeah.
For the story, not for the
not for the event.
Yeah,
When you want to be invisible, you could go to any rock concert.
Yeah.
You could go literally anywhere. You could get on airplanes, you could get on trains, automobiles. Another great movie. Yeah.
First off, what was like your first job before all that? Like, did you have like a job in high school or anything?
Yeah, I worked at Taco Bell and Burger King.
Oh, well, that's fun. What was your first job, Diane?
Casa Bonita.
Oh, so really all food store. I mean, I worked.
Oh, we're all in high school working in food. Yeah,
I worked in. I worked at Brahms.
So I try to be super nice to anyone behind the counter, because everyone takes the opportunity to crap on them. Yeah, it's awful.
Everybody in high school should have the experience of working in fast food.
I agree. I 100% agree. I mean, there's some people that I know that worked in retail. That was sort of their first one.
I did that too. Not as my first one, but that was.
I did too.
That was a pain. Yeah.
I never did the retail thing.
During college, in between,
Yeah.
semesters.
Yeah.
That was a rough one.
Yeah, it was for me too.
Yeah.
We had a boss that threw things at us, yelled.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, I actually just before I quit, I needed to ask him a question, and it stemmed from something a customer had asked me, and he chewed me out and right there on the floor, yelling at me to the point that she actually came up and said, "Don't you talk to her that way."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was awful.
Yeah. So what did he throw at you?
Boss. He didn't throw anything at me, but other people, I got super upset, and they're like, "Oh, that's not even the worst. Don't even feel bad. He threw a hanger at me," and I was just like,
Mama
"What?"
Garrett situation.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah. Things were different in the 90s.
I once had it wasn't my boss, but it was a peer of mine. We were in a meeting, and he got so mad he stepped through a chair.
Oh.
At the wall?
Threw it at the wall, and it was really at the wall that had the window on it. Yeah, and we were like on the 16th floor, and it didn't break the window or anything. Those windows are not meant to be broken at that high up, but yeah, it was.
And back then, men got passes for stuff like that. No one was like, "You can't control yourself." Back then it was just like, "Oh, he's such a manly, passionate response." And it's so ridiculous. Yeah.
And if we even raised our voice, we would be the bitch from hell.
Yes.
Yeah. That
hysterical
freaking bitch from hell. She can't, she's emotional. She can't handle it.
Yeah.
Fun fact on this guy, though, is like 3 or 4 months later, his teenage daughter, which, he was divorced from her mother and had remarried to another lady who had a lot of money. And his teenage daughter talked 2 of her high school friends into going in and killing him and his wife. Did not kill him, but killed the wife. Yeah. Yeah. And he testified at the trial for they're going to, whether to put her on death row or not. And he testified to put her on death row.
Oh my gosh.
She got her anger from it pretty honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't want to know any of that, did you? You can edit that out.
It's the weirdest, the whole tone. I'm sorry for the morbid tone of this podcast, guys. I'm usually really lighthearted and funny, but yeah, it's just been.
That is strange. I think it's
what we had to watch for another podcast.
Is that assignment was just, I really wish I'd never experienced that.
Well, we can't talk about it until we
can't talk about it.
But if you are interested, by this point, it's probably been out for a month or 2, because I don't know when this podcast is coming out. But you could watch
Double Feature Movie Club. 17,
I think, is the number that was on, and it's the killing of a sacred deer and the lobster is what the movies were referencing. But anyways, this has been incredibly fun. Yeah, that's fascinating.
I didn't even tell you about bugs in my hair and dead kangaroos.
Well, go ahead.
Let's make this even.
You got 2 minutes here.
Okay, so the bug room, people who visit, they're all, how could you stand the smell? And don't you just feel like they're crawling all over you? Because we're talking thousands of bugs. The bug room never bothered me in the bug room. I never had a problem. The woman that hired me, she was like, "I knew you were the one when you walked in and you were just like, hey, this is cool." And it didn't bother you at all. The one time it bothered me, I went to the grocery store after work and I was waiting in line, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw something moving, and one of the beetles was in my hair, and I freaked smooth out. I was doing that crazy, there's a bug on me dance. And, I lost it. I totally lost it for about 30 seconds.
In the middle of the grocery store?
In the middle of the grocery store. But it was out of context. The bug was not where it was supposed to be. Like if I had seen it in my hair in the bug room, it wouldn't have freaked me out. But at the grocery store, yeah, it totally freaked me out. The other thing was, what was it? Well, she was the ornithology collection manager, but for some reason, she went with another group to Australia, and they brought back this roadkill kangaroo, and it got stuck in customs for weeks. And when it came in, it was so nasty. She came down and her husband to help prepare it because they couldn't even take it upstairs. It was so gross. They had to come out to the bug room to do it. And now that's the grossest thing I've ever seen or smelled in my life. And at one point, I had this big, gross apron with lots of muck on it. And the bug room was out by the dock. And someone knocked on my door. I had the door propped open because it smelled so bad. And I turn around, and it's this poor UPS guy, and he's brand new. So he didn't know which door to go to get to the actual dock. So he knocked. He's on my door open, and he knocked on it. And he jumped back like 6 feet because I turned around with a skull in one hand, and I had just like this muck all over me. And I totally freaked him out. He probably still has nightmares about that. Yeah, that's the roadkill kangaroo.
What was your dating life like when you worked in the bug room?
You know, I didn't date a lot when I worked in the bug room.
Did you have the smell all over you?
You know, yes, you would go home smelling like it if you spent much time in the bug room. It would seep into all your clothes. It would seep into your hair, but it washed out pretty good. So it just took a shower. It wouldn't like hang out through showers, but it's not something I would do and then go home and go right to bed.
Nobody ever asked you to go to happy hour, did they?
No.
Yeah.
See, I thought it was bad when I worked at Brahms. I smelled chocolate all over me, and it to the point that I even it's just like it's very difficult. And I was like, I smell it all over me, and it can't get it off of me. But that's nowhere near as bad. We'll never complain about that again.
Have you ever seen the movie Michael?
Oh no.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, you have to watch it because he smelled like chocolate chips and. Yes.
Well, that's not what I smelled like.
Women followed him everywhere because he smelled like chocolate.
Yeah, I smelled like him. That's how I know what things smell like when they're dead. That's why it takes me out of some like murder mystery stuff if they describe it wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we're going to get morbid again. There's a sweetness to the stench of rotting flesh. And lots of people, they just describe the rotten part. But there are sweet tones that make it even more like disturbing. And
I went to see Jennifer's bug room. And let me tell you, I lasted 2 seconds. I didn't smell the sweet at all. No savory. Nothing like that.
I would not say savory.
I didn't even walk in it. They just opened the door and I ran.
It was rotten and with like sweet undertones.
Oh God.
That's what decomposition smells like. Yeah.
That's why I know that TV series Bones, whenever they would bring out the big chamber and they'd have the bugs in. And I'm like, nobody actually would be standing around that thing like that. They just wouldn't.
Well, and they also show these pristine colonies. I mean, the bugs poop everywhere. There's frass all over the place. Those things are nasty. And the bones that come out of them are nasty. You see on TV, they're all these beautiful bleached white. I mean, to get bones white, you have to bleach them. And again, me and serial killers are the ones that know all about this. But that destroys all the DNA, and they like to keep all of that for tissue research and stuff today. So there was no bleaching of bones. So they're actually usually pretty discolored and not all that great to look at.
It's too bad we don't get trivia questions about bones.
About bones, yeah. I could rock on that, man. That would be my niche. Yeah.
Well, that's been a fascinating episode, Jennifer.
Let's all eat spaghetti.
Wow.
Next time we'll talk about the 11.5-foot alligator that they brought in that they had to cut in half so it would fit in my freezer. before they prepped it. And then they had a chili cook-off for the staff, and they made alligator chili out of that alligator. And we all heard it was good, but most of us wouldn't try it because they had like 10 crock pots all around the room with little signs about what it was. And in addition to a sign saying that this was alligator chili, it also had a picture of the students prepping the alligator, which basically means big bloody photographs of them, skinning and cutting the meat off this thing. So that was not appetizing. No one, I think 2 people had it. They said it was good, but I mean, who wants to try that when you're looking at that picture?
I've been friends with Jennifer for years now, and I absolutely did not know all of this. Now I'm wondering about my choice of friendships here. Or maybe you should have her on another podcast to talk about what she's doing now instead of what she was doing back when she was training to become a serial killer.
Now I'm a museum curator, and I work in a very nice office, and there's no dead things anywhere around us. There is a tomb on the side of my current museum. So we do have a theme that kind of runs through my whole career. Yeah.
Well, there you go. We didn't get to, I feel like there's so many caverns that we didn't get in, avenues that we didn't get to go down, but I think this is a nice taste. We'll need to have you back on. We have both of you back on. Diane, you have so many stories.
Yes,
I was thinking about how initially we were supposed to tell this Alan Greenspan story that we never did.
Oh, yeah, we never did tell the Alan Greenspan story. No, we didn't. That's okay. We'll have to do that. That you should have to pay money for. Let me tell you. You should pay money for that one.
We can, that'll be the next Patreon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I like it.
It's a deal.
Great. Anything you want to plug? We're wrapping up here. Anything you want to plug, Jennifer?
Museums in general. Go visit museums. There's a museum for anything you're interested in. Literally, there are museums for everything. You may not always find the one you want in your country, but if you go far enough, you're going to find a museum that has stuff that interests you. Also, call ahead because most of the time they want to show you what they've got and they'll give you behind the scenes tours, lots of times for free. I won't promise everyone will say yes, but a surprising number of them will just be very happy to give you a behind the scenes tour, their collection space and all the other spaces they have behind the scenes. So it's worth asking. The worst they can tell you is no.
And I am grateful that you took me on a couple of behind the scenes tours, went to the Noble, but also the Oklahoma City Memorial.
Yeah.
That behind the scenes tour was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I was just amazed. That the museum itself is amazing, but that alone was just amazing.
Yeah, that collection is
and the Western Museum, what's it called?
Fantastic. National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum.
Amazing archive. Mm-hmm. Just incredible archive of Western history. Just amazing.
Diane has seen John Wayne's Asian art collection, which never gets to be seen because that's not something you would put out at the Cowboy, but they have it because he was a cowboy. So, you'll get to see stuff you never get to see when you go behind the scenes.
Well, that is a good plug.
All right.
It is one of the best.
Anything you want to plug, Diane? Since you're
listen, Double Feature Movie Club. We're back in action.
We are back
on a weekly basis, live every Sunday evening at 6 Central Time. Join us.
Wow, Diane, you just had that all ready to go. Good.
I did. Listen to the movies that you missed, and you really wonder if you want to watch or not.
Yes, and then you can also listen to it as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Right.
Yeah,
wherever you get and we're on Twitch.
We're on Twitch.
Which means you can double time it if you just listen to the audio. Yeah.
We'll see you next time. It's been Cade and Friends. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so we're going to get morbid again. There's a sweetness to the stench of rotting flesh.